Miss Gorski,
Brown.
what's going on?
Nothing much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to our last coaching session. I can't believe we're already at the end. It's been so wonderful doing it with you. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for doing this. And I'm excited to kind of wrap it up today and talk about your progress and how everything's going.
I'm so excited. I've learned so much. This has been wonderful. So thank you for asking me to do it.
I'm so glad. Okay, so just to kind of recap where we were, when we first started this whole process, we started with identifying that student goal of student engagement, specifically focusing on the number of student responders, because you really felt passionate about being able to give every student a voice and wanting each student to feel like they have been heard, and also for you to know where each student was coming from. So we identified that that was going to be our goal, and that we were going to focus on those students who were blurting. And then we were able to identify a new strategy to help with that. And we said that we were going to do the LMS Schoology discussion board. And so we talked about it. Remember that I modeled for you how that was going to go during our last session. And we left the last session with you feeling confident and ready to go implementing that discussion board. So since our last time, you have done the discussion board independently on your own. And I was able to come in and watch that lesson, which you did a phenomenal job, which I was not expecting anything less. And so today we're just going to talk about what that looks like. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So let's first talk about the lesson just in general. So you implemented that social studies discussion board. I'm assuming social studies, correct?
Yes, I did. So we have recently introduced the Cold War unit, and I wanted to kind of get a feel for where my students were after 2 or 3 lessons and just do a little temperature check and see if they understood the first couple parts of the learning target, which were being able to just tell me what the Cold War was, and also the symbolic meaning of the Iron Curtain. And so I wanted to, and I felt like those were 2 topics that could also facilitate a lot of discussion and collaboration between the students. And so I felt like those were really good topics to kind of, number one, do a formative, make sure that they understand exactly what I want them to understand, and to have a chance for every student to have a voice and to interact with each other in a way that is safe and comfortable for everyone.
Yes, I loved that you chose to do it during social studies. And I love that you chose a topic that they were so invested in. So you could just tell like the vibe in the room, like they were so excited to not only share what they had learned, but like they couldn't get enough. Like they wanted you to keep giving it to them. So I thought that alone is student engagement. But then looking at like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity because they're so excited, they're so engaged. It's hard to keep it all in. So the discussion board was the perfect platform to use so that we could let everybody be heard.
And, you know, one of the things that as we have gone through this process, and I do a lot of self-reflection and I kind of try to step outside myself and observe my lesson, oftentimes the lessons that the students are the most engaged in, I find that sometimes those are the lessons that often students are also getting lost in because everybody is so excited and they are so engaged. The students that are feeling already a little nervous about sharing, they definitely don't want to share because everything is just so elevated. So I think you're right. You know, their interest in it was definitely there. And even the kids who don't normally engage as much, when this opportunity was presented to them, I could definitely see how much they knew and the depth of their knowledge. And I think that is really invaluable to be able to have that.
Yes, I totally agree. And so just kind of looking, like comparing this observation to the very first one, you know, in that first one we had, you know, 4-ish students who were those high blurters. And so, you know, when I went into the observation, I wanted, you know, obviously I'm looking at the whole class, seeing how everybody's responding, but my eye was also drawn to them, seeing like, okay, where, you know, has using this discussion board, has that improved? And I would say that it has. Was it 100%? No. We still, you know, had 2 who were, you know, pretty passionate. However, even though they were still blurting, I felt like it was still an improvement from the last time. You
I
know,
would
you
agree.
could tell that one of those two was kind of feeding off of the other one, but was kind of like, was aware that they were
Right.
doing that, but was trying to do better. So I definitely saw improvement. And I think it's important to note that when we're setting a goal, just because we're not meeting it 100%, quote unquote, we're still making progress and we're making
Right.
growth. And
Right.
I
There's
would
still
count that as a
improvement.
success.
Yes, there definitely was improvement. And I think, if I were to privately have a conversation with my students who on the first lesson were not participating, didn't seem as engaged, I think that they would definitely say that the safety and the freedom of doing it via a discussion board or something like that gave them a lot more comfort and a lot more motivation
Yes.
to really do share what they actually
And
know.
that's what we want in our classrooms.
Exactly right. Yes.
All right. So moving on, I want to share with you that checklist that I shared with you the last time, just because I think it's important to kind of go back through that. And, because I did use that list as I came into your classroom. So you did a great job introducing the discussion board by modeling exactly what you wanted the students to do and setting those expectations for them. I felt like there was no room for them to misunderstand, or like everybody had a common understanding of what the expectations were. You also did a great job of doing your questioning in your post. I thought it was very appropriate for the grade level. I thought it was very appropriate for the students, and you did a great job with that. It was right on point. And of course, responding with empathy, like you do that all the time, Ms. Skorsky. You are so, so well with your students. You're so positive and encouraging. And even when a student may ask what we would call a silly question or something that you've just gone over, you do a really great job of responding to them in a kind manner, not to make them feel singled out or to feel bad that, oh, I wasn't really listening. You do a great job of doing that. So I really enjoyed watching that. You also promoted dialogue with your students by giving them sentences and starters, like in helping those lower level students like get started. Because I think a lot of times when you're using these discussion boards, for our higher achieving students, they're right on it. They know exactly what to do, and they're off. Whereas
Yeah.
those, underachieving students, they struggle with that a little bit.
And I felt like, one of the things I spent like the first, 4 or 5 minutes going over was the what seems like a simple expectation for some, but reminding everyone you have to restate, and this is how you do a restate, and giving them that, gentle reminder of, how we're going to start this and then how we're going to transition it once we've restated it. And I think giving them those cues, and examples of you could restate it this way, you could restate it that way, I think was really helpful for some of my special ed kids and some of my other kids who were kind of those bubble kids who they know how to do it, but they kind of struggle with just getting their feet moving once they get going.
Yes,
So,
and I think that just kind of lends itself why the discussion board is so great, because it allows you to meet each of your students at
exactly where we're
at their level. So
Mhm.
that's why it's so versatile. And so I just love the discussion boards. I just feel like you can use them across the content area, and they're fantastic.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
again, the next part, encouraging your students frequently. You walked the room, you monitored, you had conversations, with students, with small groups of students. You were very present throughout the lesson. You also do a great job of connecting other things that are going on. So you did a great job of connecting all of those pieces of the Cold War, the Iron Curtain, all of those things back together so that they are truly understanding what they're talking, what they're doing. And when a student would raise their hand and ask a question, you did a great job of like, yes, this is how this relates to this, and so forth.
And one of the things that I made sure that I included in my discussion board instructions was to remind them that we are commenting on other people's posts, but we are not correcting other people's posts, because I do feel like that's kind of a thing that I wanted to make sure that, what you understand what your role is and what kind of feedback you're supposed to be giving your peers. And it's not of the corrective nature. It is, interacting, but it is not, hey, this is wrong. This is what it actually is.
Yes.
And even though I know that they mean well, it's still, and
yeah, and I thought that our fifth graders, they struggle with that sometimes because they struggle to know what their role is, because at times we are asking them for constructive feedback. So I think you did a good job of, guiding them to, this is your role. And then finally, you kept the discussion post concise. It was appropriate. It was perfect in that 20-minute time frame. This is what we need to do. This is what I need from you, and let's go. It wasn't some long, drawn out, elaborate, lesson. So great job on meeting all the points of the checklist. Kudos to you. All right. So as we kind of reflect on this whole coaching process, so to speak, how do you feel? What do you feel like has gone well? What do you do you feel like you've gained anything from it? Just what are your overall thoughts of this coaching session?
So overall, I think it has gone really well. And when I self-reflect on what I'm doing and how I can make my craft better and how I can be more professional and just better about myself, I think, sometimes we get lost and we overlook the day-to-day minutia of the way things are done. We overlook the constant blurters because it's just the way that it is.
Yeah, it's part of it.
We get very desensitized to that. And so having someone else come in and say, hey, like, so-and-so monopolized the whole conversation, for me was just like, it was just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, this is something that I just need to do better and be better about. And so I've really spent a lot of time making sure that everybody really has a chance to be engaged and involved, and and really going out of way to making sure that the gen ed students and the special ed students, everybody has an equal voice, and not really letting anyone monopolize it. And it really caused me a lot of distress to think that not everybody was having that voice. And so it has been very, very, very valuable and has provided a lot of opportunities for me to make sure that I am getting every student exactly what they need, and making sure that every student is having an opportunity to show what they know, because they're all incredible. And so
I am so encouraged to hear you speak of that. And I think that's a really excellent point that you made, that as educators, I think a lot of times we focus on the overarching, like the really hot topic behaviors that are, like so super in our face. And so I'm encouraged to hear that we were able, through that initial observation, we were able to identify a specific goal that may not be just because kind of old hat to us, because we're teachers, we go through the motions. If a kid blurts, we shut it down and we move on. But we were able to address it and fix it. And now your class is, even
better for it.
Yeah, for sure. So as we're looking at moving forward and where we want to go from here, do you feel like that we have met the initial goal?
I do. I feel like we have met the initial goal.
Okay. So now that we have established, okay, we've met this goal of student engagement, focusing on number of responders, we kind of have three options on where we can go. And so I'm going to pose those to you, and you just pick which one you feel the most comfortable with.
Okay.
So the first one is to continue the practice. So to continue using discussion boards and just refine those throughout your teaching. And what that would look like would be, me, checking in with you periodically to see how it's going, coming in and out of your room, just refining it, making it, better and better and better. The next one would be to choose a new goal. So now that we have, accomplished this one goal, okay, I could come back in for another observation, looking for something other than student engagement do we need to establish a new goal? Or third, do we just need to take a break? I know that coaching is a lot, and that, as the coachee, you have to be, somewhat vulnerable, and it's a lot, to take on when you have somebody coming in your room and, setting up these sessions. So if we just need to take a break, that's okay too. So out of those three, where do you think you stand on that?
So, I mean, you already know this. I'm a relatively new teacher. I've only been teaching a couple of years. And one of the things that I have found as a new teacher is that the number of resources that are available to us and the number of opportunities to try different things sometimes can just be frankly overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And so what I personally have decided that is my best thing and works best for me is I really just need to pick a couple things and refine my craft within those couple things and become an expert at that before I can take on all of these other things, because it gets cloudy and it gets messy, and I don't do well at it if I'm trying 50 different things. So I would rather become an expert at one or two things and then branch out from there. So if it's okay with you, I would like to continue to refine my practice and get better at it. And then, you know, if down the road I feel like I have mastered this to a level that I could teach someone else how to do it, then maybe we could choose a new goal. But for now, my comfort level is to continue to practice so that I can get better for my students.
Yes, absolutely. I think you are super wise in recognizing so early on that like you just need to pick one or two things, become really great at that, and then move on. Because I know I was guilty my first few years of teaching that I felt like I needed to do all the things. And if somebody across the hall was doing something and then somebody down the hall was doing something completely different, I tried to do both. And I just found myself in this endless cycle of not really being able to do anything good because I was just picking and choosing.
I feel like a bouncing ball sometimes.
Yes, exactly. That's a great reference. Yes.
Mhm.
So I would agree with you that I think it's very wise. Like, let's just refine this discussion board. We have it available to us. You already know how to do it. So let's just keep using it and getting better at using it. And who knows, maybe, you know, you can be a resource to another new teacher who's wanting to do it because you've kind of, you've already done it. I think that's fantastic. So if we're going to stick with that Schoology, the discussion board, do you feel like that there's anything we need to change with it? Do you feel like it's working for you? Do you like how it's going? Do you want to just continue the model that we've been doing?
Um,
I guess is this discussion board meeting your needs? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes. I was thinking more in depth than that. Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to stick with the discussion board. You're doing great. And I did want to ask you, I know last time you had mentioned that you were concerned about students being able to respond to others before they had answered. Were you able to, did that feature that I had showed you, did that work well when you did?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, that was a big thing. And we talked about that whole group, you know, the reason that you couldn't see anybody else's posts until you created your own and the whole deal with that. And so I think that is a huge feature and very, very important to me, the student authenticity and able to perform independently without prompting from other students.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, we are almost finished. I just kind of wanted to recap everything, just kind of put a pretty little bow on it and just use this time as a way for us both to reflect on where we've come. So once again, we started with a phenomenal class because you're amazing. And, it was a good lesson, but we had lots of blurters. We identified that goal. We set the goal. We said, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. I modeled that for you. You took that in, you asked questions, we added, we revised, we made it perfect, and then you took it and you ran with it. And your kids greatly benefited from it. And so now you're good to go. So I don't want you to think I'm just going to leave you out to dry and I'm not ever going to come back because I couldn't deal with that. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to come in and check in with you, every few weeks and just say, hey, how's it going? Like, are the blurters continuing? Checking in, seeing, going back over that checklist, or is it still working? And I want you to know that if at any point you are not feeling it, or you're like, no, we need to make a new goal, like we're ready, we're good, then we can do that. And I am available here for you for obviously coaching needs and whatever else you need.
Okay,
so
great.
I am fully confident that moving forward, you're going to continue to be successful and your kids are going to continue to grow. So I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity, and I'm excited to see where we're going to go in the future.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I truly appreciate the opportunity to get authentic feedback and to be able to learn from it and to be able to make my craft better, because at the end of the day, all of us really want is to be what's best for our students and what they need. And so I'm very thankful for the opportunity to have that, because not everybody does. So thank you very, very much for that. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome. All right, Ms. Korski, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.